Good evening, everybody. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a look at some of today's top stories. LA city workers are back on the job after a brief strike. We'll have more on what led to the strike and what workers are demanding. Senator Dianne Feinstein is now home after a minor fall. The hospital said her scans came back clear. Thousands of college students are afraid to speak their minds, fearing backlash or bad grades. One lawyer tells us it's a culture issue among university campuses. An apocalyptic scene in Hawaii as deadly wildfires rage across Hawaii's Big Island and Maui, destroying buildings and forcing evacuations and rescues. Maui County officials say at least 6 people have died in the fires there. Here's the voice of a Maui resident whose house got burned by the fire.
I know for a fact people didn't get out. I know when we were pulling away, there's quite a few homeless people in the area, and people who are just not able, don't have access to vehicles. When the fire started, I heard the first explosions of the gas stations exploding, and then I saw the black smoke a couple streets away, and within half an hour, we were out the door.
The Coast Guard has rescued at least 12 people who jumped into the ocean to escape the smoke and flames. Several hospitals are overwhelmed with patients suffering burns and smoke inhalation. Cell service, including 911, is down across Maui, making evacuations and rescues even more challenging. About 14,000 homes and businesses in Maui have lost power. Hundreds of families have already lost their homes in the town of Lahaina. Strong winds from a passing hurricane are driving the fires. Hawaii has declared a state of emergency, and the White House says it's in contact. Tourists are also being urged to stay away from Maui due to the dangerous conditions. From the harbor to the valley, thousands of Los Angeles city workers are back at work after walking off the job in the first unfair labor practice strike in over 40 years. While the strike lasted only 24 hours, the impacts were widespread. NTD's Christina has more from the rally at City Hall.
Los Angeles city workers are striking here at City Hall in hopes of gaining fair labor practices, higher wages, and for their dignity.
11,000 city workers went on strike for 24 hours on Tuesday. SEIU Local 721, the union representing city workers, including sanitation workers, traffic officers, and heavy-duty mechanics, are protesting contract negotiations with LA leaders. The protests took place outside of City Hall and the Los Angeles International Airport. This caused temporary disruptions in trash pickups and widespread traffic at LAX and the city. We spoke with several city workers who shared what brought them out to the strike.
The pay is not good enough for how hard we work. And then lifeguards specifically, we're very understaffed and the pay is no longer competitive.
What brought me out here was when the city walked away from the bargaining table when we were asking for a raise that's not even outrageous, and they just stopped talking with us and won't even deal with us anymore. And I just saw that as a sign of disrespect because the traffic officers, we work hard, we take a lot of grief, we make a lot of revenue, millions of dollars every year writing tickets, and it was 90% that we voted to strike because we felt like we didn't have no choice. Because if they're not listening to us and we just keep coming to work, they're going to take advantage of us.
This is an unfair labor practice strike. The city stopped negotiating with us a few months back. They stopped talking when they agreed that they would come to the table in good faith and bargain with us. And when they did that, they broke contracts. So we're here today for 24 hours to strike. The fire department needs our help, and we had to walk away from them. Same thing with Water and Power. They're doing security line patrols while we're out here. It's a tough decision, but we got 100% participation today. It's a big deal.
A few days before the strike, Mayor Karen Bass said in a statement on August 5th, "City workers are vital to the function of services for millions of Angelenos every day and to our local economy. They deserve fair contracts, and we have been bargaining in good faith with SEIU 721 since January. The city will always be available to make progress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week." But many city workers noted that the cost of living has been a key issue for their higher wage bargain.
Most of it's the cost of living. Right now, we work for the city, and it's hard to actually buy a house living in this city. Some of us have to commute outside to the IE to get to our jobs. So with the cost of inflation and what we're making right now, it's just not fair, and it's hard to us to work for the city while working here.
There's been a lot of issues, work equipment, you know what I'm saying, basically living wages. Most people who work for the city don't live in the city because of the prices of cost of living.
Specific changes workers are hoping to achieve through this strike include:
For lifeguards, we're looking to get a $4 to $8 raise. I know that everybody else in the city is working hard as well, and I see these other workers working alongside us, the gardeners, any sanitation, everyone. They work as hard as we do, and they deserve better pay as well.
Definitely better pension, better work equipment. A lot of our trucks are like outdated. Definitely more double time. There's times where we're working more than 12 hours and we're still only getting time and a half, not double time. We can do up to 12, 13 hours a day and still making the same pay rate.
The city council said the city's negotiating team is engaging in talks with the unions, adding that both sides have reached 76 tentative agreements so far. Council President Paul Krikorian said he acknowledges the financial pressure public employees face due to increased living costs. But he says the city is also considering budget constraints and future uncertainties when negotiating. As of Wednesday, city workers are back at work following this brief strike. Christina Corona, NTD News, Los Angeles.
Senator Dianne Feinstein took a quick trip to the hospital after a minor fall in her home yesterday. Her spokesperson said all of her scans were clear and she returned home. At the age of 90, Feinstein was hospitalized with shingles earlier this year. She missed over 2 months of work in the Senate. She declined a request to resign and said she would continue until the end of her term in January 2025. There are thousands of students across the country afraid to voice their values and beliefs. A lawyer tells NTD's David Lamb that it's a culture issue when people are silenced. Here's the conversation with attorney Daniel Ortner.
Daniel Ortner, attorney with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. Thank you for joining me again. I know we just recently spoke about a case that you're working on regarding free speech at a Clovis Community College. So can you tell me, as an attorney, what have you been seeing in the overall landscape when it comes to students' free speech?
Yeah, I think students right now are often very afraid of speaking out. The surveys that FIRE does every year, the organization I work for, national surveys of thousands of students across the country, show that large majorities, last year's survey had 63% of students worried that if they said what they believed, it would hurt their reputation. They can't talk about important topics like abortion, like LGBT rights, like any of these highly controversial topics. They just can't talk about them at all, especially if they disagree with the consensus on these topics. They are afraid that they'll get worse grades, that they'll be have a significant backlash, that they'll be silenced. And unfortunately, on the other hand, you have a lot of students feeling free to shout down speakers, to cancel those that are coming on campus to speak out. It's a culture issue. We live in a society where controversial ideas can't be spoken about, where we see anyone we disagree with as the enemy, that we can't have a reasonable dialogue and a conversation with them, and that needs to change. All of the fighting we do on the legal front can't make up for the culture that doesn't respect speech rights of those that we disagree with, and so we really need a culture shift on a reminder of the importance of First Amendment rights for everyone.
How have we gone to this point where the culture has shifted, where there is controversy and censorship regarding people's differing opinions, especially in colleges? It's meant to have broad discussion and seminars.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of forgotten what universities are meant to be, which is a place where free speech and free ideas are expressed and debated. They're really meant to be marketplaces of ideas, laboratories for democracy, places where students, professors, and others can debate important ideas and come to their own conclusion. Whether you're left, right, center, doesn't matter where you stand on the political spectrum. Free speech is a precious right that needs to be protected for everyone, including those we disagree with. Public universities are state actors. They are bound by the First Amendment to the Constitution, and so they cannot put other values above free speech. And colleges, public universities especially, need to be places where those rights are protected. Other universities, private universities, are not bound by the First Amendment, but they often make promises to students of protecting free speech. We demand that they live up to those ideals and not allow other values to stand in the way of protecting free speech rights.
Thank you so much, Daniel Ordner, attorney with the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. It's great to have you back on our show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
A new study ranked the best and worst states to retire, as some of the results may surprise you. Bankrate looked at 5 categories across all 50 states: affordability, overall well-being, the cost and quality of healthcare, weather, and crime. But the state that came out on top for 2023? Iowa. The Hawkeye State was named the best place to retire due to its lower cost of living, affordable but high-quality healthcare, and low crime. The other states that round up the top 5 places to retire are Delaware, West Virginia, Missouri, and Mississippi. Florida dropped 8th. Experts say older Americans shouldn't rule out places that aren't traditionally top of mind for retirement. As for the worst states for retiring, the bottom 5 are all in the Northeast and West, primarily because of the cost of living: Massachusetts, Washington State, California, New York, and Alaska. We'll now take a short break, everyone, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come right back. A rapper will be going to prison for shooting a fellow musician in the foot, but his attorney says the 10-year sentence is harsh. Video of store clerks beating a suspected shoplifter went viral, but now the question is, was that legal? We'll hear from an attorney to find out. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today, everybody. I'm your host, David Zhang. A rapper has been sentenced to 10 years for shooting a fellow musician 3 years ago. His attorney claims the verdict was harsh. Let's take a look.
Canadian rapper Tory Lanez was sentenced on Tuesday to 10 years in prison, more than 7 months after he was convicted of shooting fellow musical artist Megan Thee Stallion during an argument in 2020. During a hearing in Los Angeles Superior Court that had been pushed back by delays, Judge David Hereford handed down the sentence to the 30-year-old rapper, whose legal name is Daystar Peterson.
Over the past 3 years, Mr. Peterson has engaged in a pattern of conduct that was intended to intimidate Ms. Pete, silence her, and keep her from defending and bringing her truth out. Despite the physical violence, verbal attacks, and attempts at public humiliation, Ms. Pete remained strong and shared the events of that fateful night with the jury and the world.
Lanez was accused of shooting Grammy-winning rapper 28-year-old Megan Thee Stallion, injuring her feet after a pool party in the Hollywood Hills in July 2020. During the 2-week trial, she told the court their argument became heated when the two began attacking each other's music careers. On December 23rd, a jury found Lanez guilty of carrying a loaded and unregistered firearm in a vehicle, assault with a semi-automatic handgun, and discharging a firearm with gross negligence. But his attorney said the sentencing was harsh.
To get a 10-year sentence is extreme, and really just another example of someone being punished for their celebrity status and someone being utilized as to send an example. And he's not an example, he's a human being. And I think it's incredibly unfortunate, and it's something that we plan on appealing.
Megan Thee Stallion needed surgery and spent 4 days in a hospital before physical therapy allowed her to walk again.
A video of a suspected shoplifter being beaten by the store clerks he allegedly stole from has gone viral. Is what the clerks did legal? We now go to NTD's Jack Bradley to bring us the details.
A man was recently beaten by 2 7-Eleven clerks while he was allegedly shoplifting in their store in Stockton, California. Now, video footage shows the man filling up a trash can with the store's cigarettes. That's until the clerks allegedly appeared to hold him down to the ground and whack him repeatedly with a rod. Police now say the store clerks are under investigation for possible assault. Is what the clerks did legal? What should they have done? And how does California law affect business owners who are victims of shoplifting? Well, joining me now is criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Ambrosio Rodriguez. In this situation with the 7-Eleven clerks allegedly beating this suspected thief, were they in the right there? Is that what they did legal?
So I'm going to break this up because there's what's legal and what a jury will accept. So it is a store owner has the right to stop someone, right? To hold them in order for the police to come. Right? Now, what we see in this video is we have a very arrogant and entitled person who tells them that there's nothing they can do to get insurance, right? He basically mocks them. At one point, they hold him down. Now, when they begin to hit him with a stick, they do not have the legal right to do that. That's when their right to protect their property ends with them being able to physically assault someone who cannot defend themselves. Right? Now, I think that's only part of it, though, because that's academic. I think what is going to happen is if this goes to trial, I think the government has a very big problem getting a conviction, right? Because we have gotten to a point that it's not just that the crime is rising and that we've had a rise in crime, but there's a rise in lawlessness, right? In this sense that we no longer can feel safe. I think most people who live in an urban center, who've called 911 know what I'm talking about. And so when the video shows him being escorted out and he asks for a soda, a jury sees that, they're not going to convict. The jury's going to side with the store owners, not with this guy.
This incident is just one of many affecting small business owners in California. To dive into this further, we welcome to the program John Kabatek, the California State Executive Director at the National Federation of Independent Business. So, John, what is your reaction to this incident where these 7-Eleven store clerks are beating this alleged shoplifter, or it appears that they are? Are they in the right here? What is your reaction?
Well, these incidents have become so far and widespread. It is really sad to see these store owners, these shop owners, having to take things into their own hands. The last thing we want is for anybody to feel that they're vulnerable, that this escalates to something worse. But you have to also understand these mom and pop owners, these businesses are everything that they have created from the ground up, and it is their financial livelihood. So when somebody breaks in, when they start taking things, this is their livelihood. They put their mortgages on the line. They're often in debt. And this is the very survival for them and their families and their employees. So we don't condone this kind of action, but we understand and we can't fault them for wanting to protect their own business and stop these crimes from happening.
And as an executive director of NFIB in California, what have small business owners said to you about the state of safety in California?
Quite frankly, they're terrified and they're feeling like nobody is listening to them. What we have are policymakers in Sacramento that continue to sit on their hands and not pass one single piece of legislation, bipartisan legislation, by the way, that would actually help not only fix these problems, hold the criminals accountable, but also talk about things like diversion programs, rehabilitation. So you got small business owners who are saying, look, we want to do the right thing in our community. We want to create jobs. We're trying to help our community. But we feel like, number one, Sacramento's doing nothing to give us the law enforcement help we need locally. And at the same time, we've got weak laws like Proposition 47 that are just allowing these criminals to once again, every single day, have a pass and break the law.
And can you break down what Proposition 47 is doing?
Yeah, well, just to put it in simple terms, Prop 47 was passed by voters in 2014. I think the ultimate goal by the proponents was to lessen or thin out our correctional system a little bit more. But the law of unintended consequences applies here because at the end of the day, while they pushed it on that particular messaging, what has happened is it actually raised the value of property from $450 to $950 to be considered an actual from a misdemeanor to a felony. So that basically meant that the property value went up from $450 to $950, making it a lot easier and making it a lot more widespread for criminals to take more, steal more, greater value, and thumb their nose at the law. And what we're seeing now, time and again, is a direct negative impact of Prop 47 with people who are breaking in, taking stuff up to close to $1,000, knowing that they can walk the next day, and at the same time, law enforcement, which needs to be stronger, is not getting the help they need locally.
John recommends business owners build rapport with their local law enforcement and encourage their local legislators to crack down on theft.
For today's sports, let's check out San Jose State University's new Spartan Athletic Center. NTD's Tyler Castile has more.
The San Jose State Athletics Department unveiled its new Spartan Athletic Center yesterday afternoon. It was revealed that the school took the best part of athletic centers from other schools and combined them all together during its planning stages. This took around 20 years to come to fruition. The 70,000 square foot facility is home to different sports, such as having a locker room for football and soccer and having designated sections for fans such as the club seating. This facility has put every step in assuring that the students are getting the highest treatment and training to be able to compete with other schools.
Well, no doubt this is a world-class opportunity for them to come here and be mentally, physically, and academically prepared to go out on the field and do their best work. And I know that this gives them an opportunity to be competitive with other schools in the Mountain West Conference, that we are rising in our stature with our facilities as well as our performance on the field.
With the $70 million facility being located in the heart of the athletics department for San Jose State, student athletes can physically train, review film, have a nutritional meal, and even relax with some friendly games of chess or ping pong, all with a view over the football field.
I think it gives them a sense of place, a sense of pride, and a sense of Spartans are great in the 408. This is really their home and their anchor.
The home opener for the Spartans will be at the end of this month, where fans can view the new facility at ZEFQ Stadium.
Thanks, Tyler. All right, everyone, that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts at ntd.com/California-today. You will find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gunji World, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. If you'd like to share a news tip or let us know how we're doing, we'd love to hear from you. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.